Amazing. So, hi everyone. My name is Yaakov. I'm a product manager here at Atera. With me is Oshri Moyal, Atera's Chief Technology Officer. We're super excited to kick off our session with Microsoft with Sunita Kannan, who is the Global AI Sales and Strategy Lead at Microsoft's headquarters team. To enjoy the hands-on workshop we will hold later on, I encourage all of you who haven't used Atera yet to head over to atera.com, open a free trial with us. There's no credit card required. That way you'll be able to participate with us later on. So I'm going to waste no further time and hand it right away to Sunita. Sunita, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Yaakov. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. Let me just start my screen share so that you can see what I'm seeing. Just give me a second. There we go. Talk about technology not being on your side when you just need it to be. Okay, here we go. So again, hi everyone. My name is Sunita Kannan. I am the Global AI Sales and Strategy Lead at Microsoft. As was mentioned, I am part of the Microsoft HQ team. So whilst the rest of the folks are in Redmond, I am physically based in Singapore. Before I continue, Yaakov, can you see my screen? Is everything okay?
Yeah, we see it perfectly.
Great, thank you so much. So it's really interesting times. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that happens in artificial intelligence in general, but now with the whole Azure OpenAI, that's another aspect that Microsoft is very engaged in. And today I'll be just talking about the background of where this actually stems from in terms of generative AI models, what they are, and then moving into more of our Microsoft's partnership with the company OpenAI and what this means for our customers, and then trying to tease out a little bit more about where we're working with our customers right now with regard to Azure OpenAI. Typical, like really high used capability areas, high used use cases, and then I'll hand it back over to the Atera team right after that. So let me just introduce a little bit more about the background of artificial intelligence, right? So if I think about AI, for instance, the term itself was coined around the 1950s. So the idea obviously was that, it's how do you get machines to be as intelligent as human beings? In retrospect, that's not that difficult, but it's about how do you bring in more of an intelligence into machines. But obviously, artificial intelligence was very much present even before the 1950s, in the 1700s and the 1800s, with Babbage and Lady Ada using it. Everyone was using it, but the term was officially coined in the 1950s. And then there's a subset of artificial intelligence called machine learning, which I think most people have definitely heard about. This is the subset of AI that concerns with how do you predict a future state using the machine to be trained on past or historic data. So again, training the machine on all this data to be able to predict a future state. That's a very simple kind of definition of machine learning, but keep that in mind because what I'm going to talk about next is going to be very relevant as well. The other subset within machine learning that people may have heard about is deep learning. And deep learning is a very fascinating topic. It's about how do you start mimicking the functions of the human brain. So think about things like hearing aids and like audio devices that we wear. There's a lot of AI-enabled audio devices that are out there right now. What does this mean? It means that it gets to have that learning ability, that that cognitive ability, very much like our brain does it for us, but obviously in the case of machines. So deep learning, very similar to machine learning, but very much how do you mimic the functions of the human brain. And then you have this new family member now, so generative AI. So generative AI is all about how do you generate new things using AI. So as I mentioned with machine learning, it's about how do you predict a future state using the machine to be trained on past or historic data. Generative AI is how do you generate new things using the machine to be learning on past or historic data. So it's very different. So when customers come to me and say, "Can I use generative AI models to be able to predict, do some predictive analytics?" I say, "No, that's the realm of machine learning. This is a very different space." Now, there's a lot of buzz that's happened around, generative AI, ChatGPT, OpenAI, all these terminologies, GPT-3, DALI, and my favorite is actually the one on the bottom left. So AI can apparently now write its own computer code. That's apparently good news for humans. It really is. It's a great piece of news for humans. But one of the things that we tend to not think about all the time in all of this buzz that happens around AI and all the goodness around it is, how do you implement something in a responsible manner? And again, this is so key, especially for industries, especially for companies that deal with either critical systems or life or death scenarios. How do you ensure that there are responsible principles and practices in place so that things do not go astray in the world of AI in general, not just Azure OpenAI. So there's this partnership that Microsoft has now formed with OpenAI, the company that started with these generative AI models. What this means is now these models, and I'll go through the whole set of models in a little bit, can be deployed on Microsoft's Azure cloud. So Microsoft's Azure cloud is our cloud name, and basically all of these models can now be deployed on our Azure cloud. So some of the models I'll just go through here. The ones which are in general availability, which means available, completely to our customers, are GPT 3.5, which is a language-based model, so a text-based model. So how do you generate new kinds of text? So it's all about text generation. Codex is all about code. So how do you generate new kinds of code? It's very complex code. The simple code can actually be done using the text-based model over here, so GPT 3.5. But the Codex is a lot more complex. It's a lot more for developers out there, not just for the business users. So definitely very much more code-based. Then we have the other two models. DALI, if you haven't played around with DALI yet, I highly encourage you to do so because it's really fun. And DALI is all about how do you generate new images using text prompts. And I'll go through all of these with examples in a little bit. And then you have ChatGPT, which I think everyone has heard about out there. And ChatGPT is basically the chatbot avatar version. It's a very much a conversational aspect of things. So this is very similar in nature to the GPT family of models in the way that it has everything to do with text. But obviously the ChatGPT part of it makes it very conversational. And GPT 3.5 and GPT family of models not only power ChatGPT, but can also power any existing chatbots that a company has within the organization. Oh, wow. Oops, sorry about that. So just as a way to show with examples, because that's going to be really key, I want to make sure that this really resonates with everyone out there. So this is an example of a prompt in the area of the GPT family of models. So a prompt is like an instruction. So write a tagline for an ice cream shop, and the response is, "We serve up smiles with every scoop." And this is a generated response, which means that if I give this prompt again, if I put in this instruction again, very high likelihood, in fact, complete likelihood, that the response is going to be completely different. And this is not copied from anywhere. It's not actually taken from anywhere. It's actually generated from scratch. Now, imagine you are, a marketing person, an executive or a marketing person in an ice cream shop or an ice cream factory or a retail shop. This kind of information is super helpful. Now, what the machine has done over here is given you some kind of prompts and examples, teasers. It's kind of working with you to give you some suggestions that you can take, and you can modify it as per your wish, and then take it forward. With Codex, again, think about this. This is a really nifty model, right? So you have a prompt which is all in English over here. It's plain English that everyone can understand. Then you're saying create a SQL query for all the customers in Texas named Jane. The response is basically a SQL query. Now, imagine this in the hands of the business users who have had no idea about how to do SQL querying. Imagine this in the hands of people who have no idea how to do R programming, Python, Jupyter, none of these things, right? And what they're doing is they're basically enabled to now do some basic data analysis on the data that they know best. It's their business data, they know it really well. But because of the limitations of not having the background in SQL or R or whatever else, they were not able to analyze it previously. Now they can. It opens doors completely. And DALI is really interesting. So DALI, in this case, obviously, as I said, I'm physically based in Singapore, so I'm definitely going to be biased in the choice of instructions or prompts here. So I've said watercolor painting of the Singapore skyline, and the response is this beautiful image over here. Now, every time I generate this image in DALI, I get a different image. Every time I put this prompt in, I get a different image. This is obviously by far one of my favorite ones, so I've kept it. But DALI has very interesting use cases as well, right? So we generally work with product designers, UI engineers, UX engineers in the space of DALI. The other one, which has been really interesting, is like healthcare, right? How do you use DALI for art therapy, for instance? Again, this is a very, very unique and innovative kind of use case for that particular company. But these are things that you can be really innovative with, DALI especially. Now, what does this mean? As I said, I keep talking about all these models. I've given examples of these models as well. But what does this actually mean for our customers when it comes to Azure OpenAI, not just the OpenAI models, but Azure OpenAI? And it's really important to understand. So these are all the models that I mentioned on the left-hand side. On the right, you can see that these are some of the biggest points to keep in mind when it comes to Azure OpenAI. So these models are going to be deployed within your Azure subscription, which basically means that anything that you generate using these models or any data that you actually feed into these models will be completely contained within your Azure subscription, within your Azure tenant. Any data that's generated, any data that's actually inputted, none of it will be shared back with any other company out there, and definitely also not with the company OpenAI itself. So it's completely secure in your Azure tenant. The other thing that companies ask me is, I in my team generated something. Now, will another team member, from another team, actually be able to see this something that I generated? Again, look at the last point over here: the enterprise-grade security with role-based access controls. As long as you've set the RBACs and the permissions in the manner that you want it to be, such that only your team has access to what is being generated through these models, it will stay within your team's premises. So there is an extra level of access control and permissions that you can actually set within Azure itself, so that it's all contained as you need it to be. Again, it depends as well on how you've actually structured your Azure directory. So depending on that and depending on the permissions that you set, everything can be contained and everything can be secured in the manner that you want it to be. The other thing to keep in mind is that there are built-in responsible AI features as well, like content, filtering and abuse monitoring and all of these things. Because we're dealing with language models over here, and it's very important for responsible AI practices to obviously be kept in place, but more so from a text and language-based perspective. So how do you avoid, especially when we're talking about organizations, how do you avoid companies to not use things like vulgar language or harmful language? Again, these are the responsible AI practices that are already in place to ensure all of that. The other thing to keep in mind is if your data is also in Azure, your data has no way of actually traversing through any kind of public network. It will all be within the private network of Azure. And the data being on Azure, as well as the models being on Azure, will definitely ensure that extra security that you need to have. The other thing that we've noticed is with customers who want to be able to deploy these models. Now, the one very important thing about these models that I should have actually mentioned at the very beginning is that the unique thing about anything to do with these OpenAI models is that they've already been pre-trained on large amounts of data sets, which means that you're able to take these models and input them into your environment and immediately start testing it on your own data. So you don't need to train the models further in most of the scenarios out there. Out of the customers that we worked with, about 95% of the customers actually don't need to further tune their models. It's only in very unique circumstances where that is needed. Again, this really speeds up the time to actually value, as well as the time to realize the benefits of anything to do with AI in this case. Um, so again, keep these things in mind because these are very important points about Azure OpenAI Service. Now, the thing I wanted to just quickly mention, because these will the examples that I talk about later will touch on these. This is our entire Azure AI portfolio of products and services. So if you look at the last three layers over here, you will see that we have the applied AI services, which is cognitive search, which I want to point out a bit here, which is our search tool. So it actually searches through both unstructured and structured documents to be able to get to the answer that you're looking for in your question. Form Recognizer is more of an OCR kind of capability. So it actually takes PDF documents or any other documents that you may have, extracts all that information using key value pairs, and is able to digitize all that information and store it in your data lake, data warehouse, or wherever you want to store your data. And that's, again, a very, very important tool for many of our customers. So just keep these two in mind right now from this row. The next row down is our cognitive services. So you'll see vision, like computer vision, custom vision, face API to be able to recognize faces. You'll also see speech, like how do you convert from speech to text and text to speech. And then we also over here have our Azure OpenAI service as one of our cognitive services. Then obviously as our machine learning platform, we have Azure Machine Learning, which is also accompanied by our Azure Machine Learning Studio, which makes it really easy for users to be able to interact with the machine learning models in their own skills level as well. So we have drag and drop features. We have machine learning, auto machine learning. We have a lot of different capabilities that, depending on your skill level in machine learning itself, you can use any of those features. But that is our machine learning platform. So some of the capabilities areas that we can talk about forever are the ideas are limitless over here. So we have lots of different customers, and it depends on who's looking for what. Everything from being able to have essay outlines for an education sector, all the way through to image innovation that I spoke about earlier with DALL-E, all the way through to code generation, and lots of different virtual assistants, very, very popular kinds of things. But there are four capability areas that keep emerging time and again with our customers that prove it to be the most popular. And these are content generation, summarization, code generation, and semantic search. So when we're talking about something like content generation, one example, one use case can be something like automatically being able to generate responses to customer queries in a call center analytics scenario. So if I'm getting a call in from a customer, this is the question that they have for me. Depending on Sunita as an individual customer of yours, how do you automatically respond to her with a hyper personalized response based on search patterns or buying patterns, whatever else that you have in terms of information about me as an individual. So being able to automatically generate responses is a very, very important aspect. Again, you can create an email from scratch, and that's the power of something like content generation. With summarization, which is a very popular capability, again in the scenario of call center analytics, imagine that the first line of support, that when a customer calls in, the first line of support is a bot agent who picks up the call and has a conversation. Then for any escalations, it's handed over to a human agent. Now imagine you're the human agent and you've just received that escalation. You have about three paragraphs of information about why the customer had called in. You also have a huge amount of dialogue to go through between what happened between the bot and the end user. And then you have your customer screaming in your ear saying, how long are you going to take? Can you please hurry up? I don't have all day. It's a very stressful scenario to be in. And this is where the summarization capability really kicks in and really starts to help. So you can summarize, for example, what the customer had called in regarding. So the three paragraphs can become like 2 lines. You can also summarize what was the outcome of what happened between the bot and the end customer, and then you can then attend to the customer a lot more faster and efficiently. The other thing that people love to summarize is any kind of documentation. So imagine financial reports, imagine legal documents out there, IT documents. The number of times we've all seen, I don't know, pages and pages of IT documents when you're looking for that one answer and you just have to look through the entire thing. Summary of everything that you're looking for. Again, it's a very important aspect of it as well. And we've also had companies who want to be able to do podcasts of the summary that's developed within their internal organization, so that people can understand things and grasp things faster. The other thing is analyst articles like Gartner, Forrester. How do you make sure that you're able to summarize all that information? Again, summarization capabilities. And for any company which is really high presence in social media, a social media trend summarization is a very popular use case as well. In terms of code generation, as I mentioned earlier, how do you convert from natural language to SQL or vice versa, as an example? Code documentation, all of these are very popular ones, especially for companies who have large developer environments. Code generation is super, super key over here. And then semantic search. Now, when we think about semantic search, remember I mentioned cognitive search earlier, but that sits outside of Azure OpenAI. We have now semantic search, which is a capability that sits within Azure OpenAI. So if you want to be able to search for reviews of any particular product or service, if you want to look through all that documentation, if you don't want to summarize it, but look through it for one specific answer, again, semantic search is very, very important in cases of information discovery and knowledge mining. So very, very key capability areas. The top 4 are these. But these are all within their own silo, different capability areas. What happens in a real life scenario where you have multiple model use cases? So for example, it touches on more than one of these things. So this is where you have an example like an end-to-end call center analytics. Again, these are just examples to sort of tease things out a bit more. An end-to-end call center analytics, everything from classification of information, sentiment analysis of your customers calling in. So for example, in the month of January, 95% of our customers were satisfied with our products and services, 5% were dissatisfied, and this is the product or service that they were dissatisfied with. I can take that information back to my product or service team and say, can we work on that, please? Entity extraction, summarization of those call logs that I mentioned earlier over here, and then automatic email generation to those customers, again, hyper-personalizing it when that information is being sent out. End-to-end, boom, that's actually Azure OpenAI. The other one, which is very popular, is Customer 360 hyper-personalization. How do you summarize all kinds of customer queries and trends? Again, content generation, making it very personal to each customer, very popular. And then business process automation. Over here, one of the things which is super popular is document process automation. So if you take, as I mentioned, your PDF documents, use Azure Form Recognizer that I alluded to in our Applied AI Services layer. That extracts all that information. Use something like cognitive search or Azure OpenAI semantic search to be able to search through all that information and then store it in something like your Cosmos DB, if that's where you want to store it, or your web application or Power BI for any insights you want to be able to generate. That's actually a very, very popular use case with our customers. Another one which is very popular, I keep coming back to this, is our contact center, call center analytics. So imagine all your calls coming in audio files using the speech to text, the speech capability that I mentioned. And then you can use Azure OpenAI to do any number of things, like semantic search capability to search through internal documents, find the answer to the question from the customer, and then actually send it back in an audio file by doing a text to speech back to that particular end user. Now, it's very important as well that I keep coming back to text to speech and speech to text, is only because this really touches on one of our key principles in responsible AI, which is inclusiveness. So keep in mind the kind of customers that you're going to be catering to, and the fact that these customers, all of them, may not be able to read or type or here. So you want to be able to provide them the service in the method that is best for them and that they can understand. The other thing that you can do is also take all that information, pull it into Power BI for insights or your CRM tool for any other thing that you want to be able to do. Very, very popular use case, this one too. Just to give you some snippets before I wrap up, this is a real customer, a conversation that is happening. So I just was in a car accident. This is an insurance company, and I wanted to report it. So I hope you're all right, blah, blah, blah. So as I said, imagine having to read all this when someone is screaming in your ear saying, how long are you taking to answer my question? What you can do instead is extract the following from the conversation. Like the main reason, the sentiment of the customer, how did the agent handle the conversation, and create a short summary of the conversation. Now, what you can see here is that the sentiment of the customer was shaken up, but okay. The agent handled the conversation well and was empathetic. Again, this is sentiment really coming in over here. And then the last one is the customer was in a car accident. The agent started a claim. So again, a summary of what actually happened between, say in this case, it may or may not have been a bot, but a bot and the end user. So again, a lot of things happening, and it's in the exact same 6 format as you actually requested. If you don't want it in an English natural language format output, but if you want it in a JSON output, all you have to say is please answer in a JSON machine readable format, and boom, you get it in a JSON machine readable format. Now, this is one of my favorite ones. So your input is in German. This is all it is, right? It's just one line over here in German. And you're saying generate a formal customer communication in English, offer help at this email address, be apologetic. So sentiment, again, coming in over here. Use this as a time format, and then please output in a letter format. What it's done, it's content generated from scratch, just using this one line, an entire letter from scratch. And it's used this particular email address over here. It has used the time format that you have mentioned. It's also brought in sentiment that you asked for, so we apologize for any inconvenience. And guess what? The whole thing is in English as requested. So it's done a lot of different things at the same time, like translation, content generation, sentiment being brought in, a lot of things together. So, a lot of customers of mine ask me, like, where do I use AI, like Azure AI, because you have so many different things in Azure AI. Remember the portfolio I showed you earlier, versus Azure OpenAI. So as I said, so if you want to be able to have a model that can handle multiple tasks, like I mentioned, like translation, sentiment, everything together. If you want to be able to, generate human-like content, rapid prototyping, as I mentioned, is already being trained on huge amounts of data, and a model which needs little or no training, again, because of the fact that it has been pre-trained, and to be able to explore any of the solutions or use cases that I mentioned earlier, especially the capability areas like summarization, OpenAI is going to be your hero product in those cases. But it's not going to be by itself in an end-to-end solution, as you've seen in just two of the examples that I mentioned earlier. You did have speech, remember? So it will touch on, or it will work with our other cognitive services, or even our applied AI services like form recognizer or cognitive search that I mentioned earlier. And I do want to come back to, because it is so key for our customers, is the fact that the data privacy
Yaki, just the two of us now.
Yeah. Looks like we're having some technical issues. I hope we will have Sunita.
And with that, I just want to say thank you.
Sorry, Sunita,
I know this was a...
We couldn't hear the last couple of sentences you've said. Looks like the line was off.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're back online.
Was it on the slide? Okay.
So if you can reshare the last slide, please.
Oh, yeah, sure. Sorry.
No worries.
That was my bad. I don't know what happened there. Does that work? Can you see that?
Not yet.
Okay,
Now we can.
there we go.
Perfect. Thank you.
So, sorry, what I was saying was that there are lots of benefits of Azure OpenAI, but the one that I want to come back to again, which is because it's so key, is the fact that data privacy, security is all completely maintained within Azure OpenAI. If you were to do it on Azure, the reason is because, as I mentioned earlier, this is completely within your Azure cloud, within your Azure subscription, and your Azure tenant, with the right kind of RBAC that you set, with the right kind of permissions that you set. Everything is in a secure manner. It's only going to be accessed by you, so there is no chance of, with the right kind of security measures in place, obviously, there's little to no chance of actually having that data being sent out outside, and definitely not to OpenAI, definitely not to any of the other companies out there for them to be training their data on that information. None of that is going to happen, because everything is going to be within your Azure subscription. So that's what I was saying there. So hopefully you could hear it this time. And I just want to say thank you so much for letting me share this piece of information.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Sunita. This was amazing. I think the technology is just amazing. You've showed so many examples. Some of them we're already using and we'll get to in a couple of minutes. But there's a lot of inspiration for future things to come. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Yaakov. Back to you.
Cool. So as promised, we're going to continue and have our workshop. Those of you who have an Atera account, if you've opened the trial, you're welcome to do so and open it up and follow the steps. But first, I want to share a bit about our development and our approach into how we incorporate AI into the workflow of IT. So I think the first thing that is worth discussing is, obviously there's an industry shift. People are talking about people being 4 times more productive than they are in a short span of time. This productivity is changing, and really we want to ensure that we're able to harness this technology and help you become more efficient and do things differently than how we're used to. At the same time, Atera is really trailblazing the world of IT, combining it with AI. We're going to talk about the features in a couple of seconds, but really everything that we have been putting out to our customers, we were the first one to incorporate, and really we want to be the pioneers when it comes to AI and IT. At the same time, as you know, Atera is an all-in-one platform. We have both the RMM, the PSA, the marketplace. Everything is combined together in a single code base. And really, when we develop these solutions, we want to have a holistic approach, and we want to make sure we are able to accompany you in the entire life cycle of your IT work. At the same time, what really guides us is just helping you reduce repetitive work. There's enough tickets that have to do with printers and slow computers that really we don't want to have. We want to focus on what matters. We want to do infrastructure and cybersecurity and spend our time where it matters the most. And this is really what we're trying to achieve with these features. And at the same time, we're meeting our customers. We know the industry, and we realize there's a shift, and IT is becoming a lot about service. Our users are expecting speed, they're expecting efficiency, and they want proper communication. It becomes more of a customer success world where we really have to accompany our clients and give them the nicest, the best service possible. And this is also something that is in our minds when we develop these features. I don't have a bullet here, but I will also say that Atera, in general, as a company, we're trying to harness AI and see how we can incorporate it in our development and in our processes. And really, this is becoming somewhat of a culture for us in our internal matters, not only the features. So that was our approach. And I want to talk about how we actually used the capabilities Sunita has mentioned and how we leverage them and combined Microsoft's OpenAI with our product. So the feature we have out now, and all of you can already trial it, many of you have, is what we call the Copilot, or the AI assistant who is there to accompany you through the entire life cycle of a ticket. Essentially, what the first thing this thing does is we are able to give you a ticket summary. And this is really a great way to catch up on a very long ticket, a very long history of backs and forths. You don't even remember what happened. Some other technician was taking care of it. And we see many of the managers, for example, going through tickets at the end of the day, or if you're constantly switching context between different problems, different tickets, this is the best way to dive in and understand what is happening here. Next up, you're all ramped up, you're all caught up, and we want to give you a solution. Many IT problems have some sort of generic solution or something that is not very generic but can even be complex. And we are actually able to take the history of the ticket and suggest something that will solve it for you. This way you can, of course, save up time or have some inspiration into how you want to tackle this problem and really do it in a much quicker way. After you have this solution, we also want to help you give better service, better communication. So we're offering you an actual response. We will generate a response for you that is helpful, friendly, practical, and hopefully will save you time. I will show you what it looks like, but it's also just a great way to get some inspiration into writing. I know I always find it very hard to, just type in the first word, and this is really a great way to do so. And last, once you have the summary, you have a suggested solution, you have a response, you actually have to solve the problem. In this case, we want to script the solution for you. That way you can run it on the agent without having to remote in, going 3 floors down using the stairs. You just have to generate the script using Atera, run it on the agent, and the next time you're going to have this problem, you can just run the same script without thinking twice. So that is the solution we have at the moment. And really, I want to take some time and show you what it looks like in real life. So all of you that have Atera open, please keep it open. If you haven't yet, open it, and I will share my screen. Perfect. So I'm on the Atera dashboard at the moment. I'm going to go ahead and go to my tickets list. And let's see what we have today. So this is the tickets list. I see I have quite a few open tickets, over 1,200 here, 12,000 actually. But I want to focus on this one. Help, my computer is very slow. Okay, interesting, not very informative, but somewhat. And if you look here, if I hover over any one of my tickets, I have a small, cute little robot that says AI. And this is one way to start using the feature. I'm actually going to go ahead and go into the ticket. And I want to read through this with you guys and see what we're dealing with. So looks like this is from one of my clients called John Lennon, very good customer. He's saying, hey, can you please help me? My computer is being very slow today. Okay. And it looks like I answered him a couple of days ago. And I asked him, have you tried restarting it by chance? Looking forward to hearing from you. And then John Lennon in the flesh answered me, yes, it did not help. I'm also getting a message about low disk space. Awesome. So if you have any open tickets, go ahead and just read through them for a moment and see what the history is. If you open the trial, you will see you have a sample ticket and you will have a somewhat similar case. You can also read through it. And let's scroll all the way up and click the magic button. So the first thing, as promised, is we will give you a summary. You have the ticket title over here, and we have a short paragraph talking about what happened. So John Lennon is experiencing slow computer performance, has reached out for IT for assistance. The technician, Yaakov, which is me, very lucky, suggests restarting the computer, but John has already tried that and is still experiencing issues. John also mentioned receiving a low disk space message. Now, I like to have things a little shorter. I'm more of a bullets person, so If you want, you can change the way the ticket is summarized. User reports slow computer, perfect. Suggested restarting, I did suggest that. He said it didn't help, he did say that. And he also mentioned the low disk space. So whatever you prefer can be done. At the same time, since we're here, you can also add this little summary as an internal note. That case, if you come back to the ticket in a couple of minutes, or you have some other technician going at it, they can see the summary, and you can have it documented if you want, or simply copy it to the clipboard and send it to your boss and say, like, listen, this is what's up with this ticket. Cool. So we talked about the summary, and next is let's generate a reply. Let's see what the suggestion says this time. Have you tried freeing up some disk space? Makes a lot of sense. Let me know if that helps. Looking forward to hearing from you, Yaakov. Amazing. So what you can already do, and this is really a matter of style, I like to use this to have inspiration into an answer, but you can actually copy this to the clipboard, paste it over here, and send it to John Lennon. Or you can simply skip the step, whatever you prefer. Of course, it's not mandatory, but it does make a lot of sense that if John frees up some disk space, his computer might run a bit faster. Once we have that, we can generate the solution. Let's go ahead and see what the solution says. So number one, check for malware and viruses. Makes sense. I should probably run a scan and see if anything happened on the computer. I'm actually not sure when I scanned the computer the last time, so this could be it. Number two is freeing up some disk space. Okay, also makes sense. And number three is updating the computer's operating system, installing any patches that are necessary. This also makes complete sense. And now comes an amazing part. As I said, we want to automate this, and instead of going and running the antivirus, freeing up disk space for the user, updating the operating system, we're just going to press this button. And what we do here is quite amazing. We simply use the suggested solution, which we have over here in the text box down here. And by sending it to the model, we're actually provided with a full script that does all three steps as suggested by the AI. And this is really an amazing thing. So if you're strong in scripting and you want to tweak anything, you're free to do so. You don't have to use any of this. If you want to do simply one of the steps, for example, step number 2, you can just delete the other ones. The one that says ran malware and virus scan, you can just delete it. And then all you have to do is give this script name if you wish, and then create it over here and run it this time, the next time, run it on an automated basis as you wish. Some other cool things you can do on this page is, of course, we support other formats. So if you want to do that, we can just generate this again. And then we're using a completely different language to do the same thing. And if you want to get creative or you want to get some ideas, you can also change the prompt here. I simply deleted all the text. And we have some examples here that you can play around with. For example, clear all files from the recycle bin. Click generate. And we have a brand new script. So I encourage all of you guys to really use this. We've introduced this feature a couple of weeks ago, and we received tremendous feedback. We have thousands of users summarizing tickets, replying automatically, and it's really inspiring to see how this is changing the everyday of IT business. Cool. So I talked a bit into what we have today. And now I would like to give the floor to Oshri to talk about what's next.
Great. Thank you very much, Yaki. That was amazing. It's amazing to see it every time, again and again. So I'll just say that Yaki showed you the part that is that the technician is actually have a co-pilot next to him. Okay, that will summarize the tickets, suggest a reply for the customer, will suggest a solution and automate it. You can take those scripts, attach it to automation, attach it to auto healing. So once you have an alert, you can immediately use the script you generated to solve the problem. This is amazing, but it's only one part of the full picture. I'm going to demonstrate something that is currently only in our lab. We'll do a live demo. I'll use you guys in the chat, suggest exactly what to do. We'll do it together. But first, I'll just present the idea behind it. As I mentioned, Yaki showed us the co-pilot part of the system, and I'm going to show you the other part, the autopilot. And in the autopilot, we are going to offer a full first tier support using ChatGPT, using OpenAI. It means your customer will go to the portal, start talk to a chatbot, get amazing service, and you'll see it right away. And by the end of the day, we will see an amazing efficiency improvement. You'll be much more productive with it. It will close a lot of the tickets without you in the middle. But if not, and you'll see it when I'll demonstrate it, you'll get a ticket with a lot of information because the AI will ask all the questions that you guys usually waste your time. Did you do this? And did you do that? And did you restart your computer? Did you try closing it? And you know what? Let's give it a try. Let's see it in live. So I'll just share my computer for a second. And let me just do this. Okay, so just let me know that you're seeing my screen. Great.
Yes, we can see it, and we're very excited in the chat over here.
Amazing. So you'll see a lot of new stuff in this portal, but we are currently looking on our customer portal. We have a new tab here, as you see, AI Assistant. And this time I'm the end user usually opening a ticket in the portal, but now I'm going to just, start a conversation with the AI Assistant. And I'm going to play dumb here, so bear with me on this. Let's do something like, I can't log in. That's it. Usually, customers can just say something like that. The chatbot say, I'm sorry to hear that. It's very nice. And can you please give me more details about the issue? Amazing. It saves time. It asks the questions that you guys usually asking. My email not working. Let's do something like this. I'm sorry to hear that. Please provide more details about the issue or similar issue. Can't log in, something about the password. Okay, now I'm getting more information to troubleshoot the issue. Logging into the account, resetting the password by clicking forget password. Done, but now it's not logging in again. And your customer can, manage the conversation and get a lot of information from the AI, and it will probably solve the problem. But if not, you as a technician get a ticket full of details because it asks everything you guys usually ask your customer. And if you take that and use the part that Yaki showed you, it will summarize it, give you a solution, will let you automate it using script. And, you much more than that, you can just attach it to alerts, or maybe create a script that next time it happens, with one click you solve it. And this is an amazing step, by you guys improving your efficiency dramatically. Do you guys want to try something? Do you want to just write in the chat exactly what you want to discuss with the AI here? Yaki, do you have any ideas?
If anyone has an idea for a tough ticket, write it down in the chat. Oshri, you have access to the chat. Let's pick something interesting.
Yeah, I saw Outlook not syncing. Let's just copy this one.
Jaime, that's a good one.
Let's do this. We are challenging. Check your internet connection, reset the Outlook in your computer, make sure you're there. Check your email account and everything. Try to do the saving. Still not working. Let's try to get even more information about it. Creating Outlook profile, let's resolve the issue, repair your Outlook installation, control panel. Oh, quite nice. Anything else? OneDrive is not syncing. A lot of things not syncing. Okay, so I see some question here, and I want to share with you the next step. So we see that it gives the first tier support. It will, try to close a lot of your, mundane, repetitive, and actually most of the day-to-day questions that your customer is asking you. But besides that, you'll have the tickets full of information for you guys. Once you get a ticket, it's like going to a second tier with all the information. You can easily work on it. You have all the details to solve it. But our next step from here will actually to give you guys the ability to choose some actions that you are allowing the users, the end users, to do. And by that, the AI assistant, if we identify this action is the right one to close the ticket and solving the problem, it will offer this action. For one example is resetting password. If the problem here was password related, and you guys enable this capability in the system, we will offer the customer to reset his password with one click. You'll get SMS with a new temporary password, and we'll eliminate that forever. Besides that, installing software that you guys mentioned is that is in your allowed list. You'll have a list of allowed software to install. The AI will identify that the user wants Zoom or something like that. With one click, it will automatically install, and will allow much more and more capabilities to be integrated into it. So besides closing those issues that the customer is requesting, we'll also be able to create actions based on allow list that you guys manage. I think that's about it in the demo part. I think we have now a Q&A session. Yaki?
Yeah, we will actually wrap up for now. But there are a lot of questions. Everybody is very excited for this feature. So as Oshri said, this is still in development. We are still working on the prompts and the capabilities of this. And really, we want to expand and give your end users the best experience possible. Of course, we'll communicate once it goes out. As you see, we're working very fast, and we're very excited for this. So if you have any ideas, anything you would like to see, also reach out to us in the features board. Ask us anything. Our support teams are here for you. And we would love to answer.